Let's go, folks. This interview is going to blow your mind. I'm with a friend of mine, Miriam, today, and it's funny because we were both part of the same mastermind this year in Chris Harder's Elite Mastermind. And when I first heard that there was another book person in the mastermind, I was like, what the heck? Like, this is going to be awesome. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, I wonder what her business is all about. I wonder, how does she operate in the book space? And I find out from the very first time that we chat that she is an expert on all things children's book. I get to know her this entire year, and we're going to talk today in this episode about so many great things. But before I spoil anything away or give away too much, let me read Miriam's bio to you guys so you could see how legit she is. And then I'm going to bring her on, and you guys are going to be in for a treat. So Miriam Laundry is the founder of Miriam Laundry Publishing, the author of 5 best-selling and award-winning children's books, and a TEDx speaker, not to mention a Guinness World Record Holder. It is Miriam's mission to give authors the knowledge and confidence they need to publish their children's books and make a positive impact on the younger generation. Authors who partner with Miriam gain more than their first best-selling publication. They also gain lasting friendships, a strong community, and the courage to chase their dreams. Miriam is a dedicated businesswoman, a caring mother, and a passionate supporter of those chasing their dreams. She has been featured on The Morning Show, Earn Your Happy with Lori Harder, and many, many more. Miriam, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me here, Jake.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. I mean, we've spent a lot of time together this year. We've talked about growing our businesses. We've talked about how we can help more people, and you do it. I do it with how-to and nonfiction books. You do it with children's books. So talk to me about how you got started in children's books and why that has become your passion and your purpose.
Yes. So I'll say that first, I'm a mother of 4 children. So I've always been thinking, how do we find more great quality children's books for my kids? And 10 years ago, when my last son was born, I attended a seminar, a conference led by Jack Canfield. And it was an amazing conference. He was teaching us about setting our goals, about letting go of limiting beliefs, about, all this amazing things. And I just kept thinking, this is great, but why weren't we taught this when we were younger? Where would our lives be had we learned these great principles when we were younger? And I told myself, I need to do something better for my kids. I need to teach them at an early age to believe in themselves, to let go of the word can't, to go for their dreams. So it was on the flight back from that conference that I thought, I'm just going to do it. I can't just come and dump this information on them. I'm going to put it in a children's book so that they really take it in. And that's what started my career as a children's book author 10 years ago.
Now let me ask this question. What were you doing before you started writing these books? Because some people have this idea that when you write a children's book or when you write an adult book, a how-to book, people think, oh, I have to stop everything that I'm doing and I only can focus on writing. And I don't even know where to begin. But for you, what were you doing, before you wrote this book or during the time that you wrote this book that still gave you the chance and freedom to be able to write a really great book?
Yes, I was probably the busiest I have ever been during that time. I was running a separate business and I had a brand new baby at home, the 4th one, like a brand new baby. So it was busy. I always think, if something is important to you and if your why is strong enough, you will find the time to make it happen. You'll find the time to write, to hire a coach, to do all of the things you need to do to fulfill whatever it is in your heart to do. And for me, I kept focusing on my why, to empower children. Jake, I didn't share that during that time, we also lost a very close family member to suicide. So that was my driving force of, first it was for my children, and then it was, how do I get this message to a lot of children? How do I really multiply the effect of my book on children? So that was my big why. That's what I kept focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, that's so powerful. And I think it's so important that we have a strong intention, a strong why of what we're doing this. But you said something that, like, to me, hit home, which was you needed to get this message out to more people because there was this personal reason, this personal passion, this personal internal intrinsic, I need to get this out there. And then you said, but it was the busiest time of your life. So let me ask you this. Can anybody and should anybody write a children's book because you were super busy, you had a super important message, but you found a way to get it done and it did pretty well. So can
Mhm.
anybody write a children's book?
I believe that anybody can write a children's book. You don't need to have a background in writing. I never did. I went to school for business, never in writing. But I believe that there are some things you need to do and you need to know when writing. It's probably the same for adult books, but for children's books, there are things you need to know that should go into children's books and things that shouldn't be in a children's book. You need to know how many words are in a picture book if that's what you're going for. So I'll give you an example. One of my authors, we published his book last year. He came to me, so probably 2 years ago now. His name is Brian, and he's a business person also from California. He's into real estate, but he also has a passion for baking. And he was already going into schools pre-COVID, teaching kids how to bake. And through his teaching, he was empowering children to know that they can be whatever they want to be in the world. That was his message. And he did it through baking. But when he came to me, he said, I really want a book that I can go into more schools with, but I've never written anything before. Can you just ghostwrite this book for me? Can I just pay you to write this book? And I said, you know what, let me just teach you a couple of things and let's see where we go from there. He ended up writing his own book. Of course, he took my program, I mentored him, he wrote his own book, and he now continues to go into schools, even more schools on the side. This is his give back project. 100% of his proceeds go towards unprivileged children without all the privileges in his hometown. And what was interesting is that after he launched his book, it became a bestseller. He received an award. He emailed me with his award for his book, because now he's the guy that didn't think he could even write a book is an award-winning children's book author, which is amazing. So to answer your question, I believe anybody can write a book. There's just some information you need to know. And the very first thing to do is to get started, to get writing.
And so what are some of these things that we need to know? You mentioned, knowing how many words it should be. Are there any things that are unique to children's books that if once you have enough information, you can really start to like plan it out and get started? So maybe start there with the word count. And then if there's
Yes.
any other things that are unique to children's book that will help somebody get started, I'd love to hear those tips.
Yes, yeah. So the first thing would be that when people come to me and they say, I have a book story or I have an idea, where do I start? I ask them to define who they're writing for. Who is your audience? So if it is a child, the majority of people want to write for children 4 to 8 years old. Those are picture books. So the maximum word count there is 1,000 words. It can be anywhere from 600 words to 1,000 words. And if you think about those books, they're 32-page books that have illustrations and writing on each page. So you don't want to bore the child going over 1,000, because it has to be a parent and child should be able to read it in one sitting, one night. Our number one job as a children's book author is to entertain the child. And then secondary, if there's a message that you want to convey, if there's a legacy that you want to share with children, then that has to be buried into the message. So that's the biggest trick with children's books. You don't want to be, hitting kids over the head with a message, because they've spent all day at school. They go home and parents are teaching them. A children's book should be entertaining. So hide that message in there, and that's going to make for a really good children's book.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Now, the next question that comes to me as someone who has not written a children's book yet, maybe I will in the future, but well, I don't know how to condense everything into that. Like, do you help with the story structure? Do you help people with editing the book? Do you help people with like really making sure that the message isn't too forward facing, but it's hidden enough where the story's so good? Do you help everybody with that, or where do people go to figure that out?
Yeah, yeah. We have a blueprint on my website. You can go to my website. It's miriamlaundry.com /blueprint. And that gives you an outline of how you should be writing a children's book. You always want there to be a problem in a story, and then you want that child to be the hero of the story. One of the biggest mistakes we make as people that are writing for children is that we let an adult come in and provide the answer to the solution. And that's a huge no in children's book writing. We want your character, your child, to go through his hero's journey and figure out the solution for himself. adults can be in the book, but they just cannot be giving the solution. And Jake, I'm doing a free training in just a week, actually, where people can go, and we're teaching you how to write a picture book children will love and parents will want to buy, even if you've never written anything before. So come to the training. I'm doing it with Jack Canfield. He's been my mentor and my co-author for 2 of my books. It was actually his training I was sitting at 10 years ago. So he's coming on, and together we're teaching you how to write a great children's book. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I got to ask this because you're doing the training with Jack. A decade ago, you were learning from him and you were inspired to create this. How did you go from sitting in the audience at one of his events to then writing multiple children's books with him and now literally teaming up to help spread your message even further and help more people write children's books?
Yes, yeah, that's been the power of getting in the room with those people, with those leaders. And he's always been a mentor to me. I continued to take courses with him. I shared with him what I was doing. I shared my mission. My mission back in 2014 was to empower 100,000 children to believe in themselves. I shared that with him. I went for a Guinness World Record. I kept him updated. I did get a Guinness World Record for my first book and an event that we put together. So I continued to let him know what I was doing. And then when I wrote my 4th book, I mean, he was just the perfect person. I sent him an email and I said, I've learned so much from you. The things that I'm learning from you, I'm passing them on to the next generation, to my children and to other children. I would love to co-author this with you. That was a scary thing. I'll pause and say that. That was scary to reach out and ask that. But I thought, the worst he could say is no. And if he says no, nothing has changed. I'm in the same situation. So I'll deal with it tomorrow. Luckily, he said yes. And we have co-authored 2 children's books together. And now he is helping me spread that message, because I believe that if I want to empower children, I can get to more children by helping adults write their children's books. And together it'll be that ripple effect that'll just keep going.
That is so good. And you're so right that the power of getting in the room, when you get in the room with the right people or you work with the right coach, the things that you thought were once the most difficult, things that you didn't even know were possible, become very close, become very tangible, become very real. And when writing a children's book, some people think it's really difficult to do all of this, right? Just like with writing a book that I teach people how to do. But how hard is it? And also, like for me, I think of the illustration component, right?
Mm-hmm.
How hard is it to put together this whole book? How long should it take? And do you recommend people do illustrations themselves or outsource it? What does that look like?
Yes, I would definitely recommend not doing it yourself unless you are an experienced illustrator. So a children's picture book, there's 2 components to it. There's the writing part, and then there's the illustration part. They have to work together, of course, and it's a partnership. But if you're the one that's writing the book, you can hire an illustrator. Hire somebody to illustrate your book. There are a lot of great professionals out there who would do that. I will say that you want to make sure that in the end, you have the copyright to the illustration so that this is your book and you're paying them for the work that they're doing and illustrating. So that's just a tip that I always share with my authors. You want to make sure that you have the copyright for the illustrations and for the words, because what if you want to have another product based on your characters or your book? You don't want to then be paying royalties to somebody else. So you could have a coloring book later, or if you decide to do a stuffed animal or something, whatever it is, you want to make sure that right from the beginning you own it.
And how do you pick your book topic, right? Like you've already in this episode so far given us inspiration. You've given us like some tactical things about what does it actually take to get started doing it. But how do you figure out which topic to use or which idea is going to be best for a particular children's group, or like how do you determine that topic?
Yes, that's a really good question. You can choose a topic based on what you want to teach a child. What legacy do you want to leave for children? What's something that's important to you? That's one thing. Some of my authors have written about, like yesterday, we launched a book 2 days ago, sorry, about acupuncture. So it's a children's story about kids playing baseball and a little boy who has a tummy ache. And my author is an acupuncturist. So she wants to teach children that it's not scary, that those needles are not scary. So that came out in a children's book. And we're not talking about that in the story, but we can just see it through this character going through that. So that was important to her. Another thing, another one of my authors wrote about fear of the unknown, a little turtle who's fearful. He's adopted into a new home. And how do we overcome that fear? Right? That's relevant to all of us, to all children and adults, but we're talking about children. Another thing to consider is, what kind of books do you want to see more in the world? What is something that you've been searching for, but you haven't found? And I'll give you an example of another one of my authors, Cindy Crosby. She was at a playground with her son, and her son wanted to go play with a little boy, but the little boy did not know English. He had just arrived in the country. And that day, she thought to herself, after they went home, let's find a book where we can learn how to say hello to this boy next time we see him at the park. And she couldn't find that book. So she wrote a book about saying hello in different languages. She wrote the book that she wanted to see for her child. So it's either a legacy that you want to leave behind, or a book that you cannot find and you wish there were more of.
Do you think that, because I mean, I have so many ideas at this point. Do you think that most people come with the message first, or like the type of book they want to write? And here's what I mean by this, right? Do people come saying, I want to teach the lesson of inclusion. I want to teach the lesson of dream big. I want to teach, as you said, the belief in yourself, removing I can't, right? Or do you think people come from more of the framework of like, look, I want to have a story around a turtle. I want to have a story around a 10-year-old kid who plays baseball. I want to have a story that's based on the playground. Do you find that one comes before the other?
I think that it just depends on the person. I've seen both. I know what I like. I like to go to these conferences and learn, right? So for me, it's all about the message. But there's a lot of people that come in with just a fun story. And there are people that come and say, do I need to have a message in the story? You don't need to have a message. It could just be a fun story. But there's always something that children will learn from a book. There's always something. So, I mean, that is a tricky thing. If it is about the message, you have to work really hard at making sure it's not about the message for the child, right? So either way, and I have found both.
What do you find are some of the results and the things that people desire from writing the book? You know, obviously legacy, impact, spreading your message is one of the biggest driving forces for writing a book, whatever style it is. But what are some of the benefits? I know that you have spoken all across the country, teaching people in schools because you had the book. What are some of the other ways that people can monetize their book or expand their reach and boost their credibility?
Okay, yes, I see a couple of questions there. So one, do people write? So I would say a lot of people write because they want to leave that legacy that we talked about. Some people write because this has been a dream that they've had forever. It's not even about the legacy. I've had many authors that have come to me and have said, I've had this dream. It's in my bucket list. I've wanted this for 20 years, 30 years. Lori Parks, one of my first authors that I helped, had talked about when she was 9 years old, she got in front of her classroom and she announced that she was going to be an author. And that didn't happen for 50 years. When she was 59, we worked together and she accomplished that dream. For her, it was about making sure that 9-year-old accomplished what she wanted to do. So it really depends. So on the other side of your question, your second question was, what are the things that come out of writing children's books? I would say that doors open. You know, it's probably the same for you, Jake. You'll start noticing that other opportunities present themselves. For me, it was speaking at schools. And I loved that. I loved going into schools, reading my book, and then doing a workshop with the kids. And it was about, you know, whatever the book was about. Letting go of the word can't was the first one. And then from there, I was invited to speak at on a TEDx stage. That came out of nowhere. The Guinness World Record, I won't say that came out of nowhere because it was work. But opportunities started presenting themselves. For some of my authors, what they have seen, I can think of one person in particular, Karen Espoli. She wrote her first book, and then she's been contracted to ghostwrite for a publisher. She's now on her 8th book, that her name is there as a ghostwriter, and that's a career, a new career for her. She had just retired from teaching. Somebody else has decided that they want to do websites and book trailers for authors. So you just really don't know. It just opens up a new layer to your life. You don't have to leave your day job if you don't want to do that. You could be doing things on the side. I always tell my authors to really just trust that the opportunities are going to present themselves, and they present themselves in different ways for everybody.
That is remarkable. I mean, I just want to pause here for a second, because I believe that when you write a book, great and unexpected things will happen. And often there are things that you couldn't even have predicted that will come out of the woodwork, whether that's a new relationship, a new opportunity, or something that you've always desired, but you never even knew you desired it, right?
Yes.
But things happen once you put yourself out there, once you share your story, once you share your message. And I just want to go over 3 things that have happened for you, okay? Not even to factor in that you built an entire business around this after writing your own books, but you landed a TEDx talk, you spoke in schools, and you have a Guinness World Record, okay? Let's let that sink in. For those of you that are listening right now, let that sink in. She was inspired at a conference. She wrote the beginning part of the children's book on a plane. She now has 5 award-winning and best-selling books. She's built an entire business on the back end of this. She has a Guinness World Record, TEDx talk, and has spoken to thousands of kids in schools. All because you said, I'm going to give this book a shot because I want my kids to hear something in a different way. I want to share this message with them. Are you kidding me, Miriam? I mean, that is unbelievable, right? And so I really think it's important that we recognize the path isn't always linear. The path isn't always right in front of us. Sometimes it's creating it and going in a completely different direction. Sometimes it's adjusting it. But guess where it starts? It starts by saying yes to yourself, yes to that inner calling, yes to that message. And that's what you did. And look at how many people you've impacted now. Think about all of the people that have books because you wrote your first book. Right? So whatever type of children's book you want to write as someone that's listening to this, or whatever type of book you want to write, it's bigger than just the book. It's bigger than just the book. And I love your story. I love what you've been able to do with it. And so I want to talk about understanding, you mentioned getting in the room. You've mentioned, making sure you don't do the illustrations yourself and you hire that out. How important is having the right coach, the right roadmap, or the right team when creating a children's book?
Okay, so let me just say first, thank you for all that you said. I need a recording of that.
You'll get it.
I
Don't
will
worry.
have it. That's amazing. Thank you for saying all that. So how important is it to get in the room and find a mentor? Jake, that is everything. That is everything. For me, it's what I tell my authors also. If I had not gone to that conference, let's go back to 10 years, Jack Canfield's conference, I would not have even had that feeling, that desire to want to write for children. So that started it. Had I not been there the year following that, where we set big goals for ourselves, and for me, it was to empower 100,000 children, I would have never gone for a Guinness World Record. That wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have been going into schools and speaking. So getting yourself in the room is so, so important. I'll just say one other thing. Right before the pandemic, I decided to make my biggest investment, and I enrolled in Chris Harder's Fast Foundations at the time for people that were just starting their businesses. Had I not gone to that event, I wouldn't have thought of helping authors publish their own books, work on their stories. That's what really helped me start this business. So getting in the room is crucial to our growth, to meeting the people, to networking, to providing. And the networking for me is all about seeing how somebody else is doing life, how somebody else is working their business. This is how you and I have connected, because I want to know how you run your business, and you want to know that from me. That empowers me, because I hear how you're doing things. I see the amazing things that you're doing, and I think that's awesome. I want to do that also. And if I don't know how to do it, I'll ask somebody for help. I'll find that mentor that's going to tell me, this is the roadmap. You start at point A and we're going to finish at point B. That's what a mentor is. That's what you do for your students. That's what I do for my children's book authors. So it's crucial to get yourself out of your comfort zone, to believe in yourself. You got that feeling, you got that nudge in you that, yes, I want to write a book, then you have to follow it. It's your duty, it's your responsibility to follow that and to trust the process that will get you there, where all the doors are going to open, that'll get you to your next stage, to the next place you got to go to.
So it's so important. And you're so right. I mean, we literally, because we made an investment to get into the right room, we got to know each other. Then fast forward 9 months from the time we first met, we're sitting in a hotel lobby in the middle of a hurricane with an electrical fire. And instead of panicking, we spend another hour and a half in our PJs with pillows and the whole hotel freaking out, talking about our game plans for Q4. Like, I mean, this is what it's all about. It can be fun and it can be doing it. And so I want to get into some tactical questions around a children's book here as we get ready to really wrap up, because I want people to get excited about the training you're about to have here, because I think if you've ever wanted to write a children's book, Miriam is the best person to teach you. That's my belief, and I believe it in you. I believe in you, and I've seen what you can do for people. So I want to get people warmed up, and I want to set the expectation for them. How long does it typically take somebody to go from, hey, a children's book piques my interest, to then actually having a children's book out into the world and launched? And I'm aware that this can change person to person, but what do you see from all the clients that you've worked with?
Yeah, I would say the average is about 9 months. That's how long it took me. And I know that maybe some people are thinking, 9 months, isn't it a quicker thing? Can it not be a quicker thing? You have to realize that with a children's picture book, your illustrator is going to need 2 to 4 months to work on the illustrations. And you want to make sure that, especially when a children's book, if we're confined to 1,000 words, those 1,000 words are so important. So we go through extensive editing to get a professional children's book that children are going to relate to. That's the biggest thing. You know, what I tell my authors is, you can write a quick 1,000-word story for a child, and the book can be published, but that book may only be read to that child one time, and that's it. I want children to choose my book and ask for my book, where parents get annoyed. Can we read that one book again and again? Because children will do that. If they love your book, they're going to ask for that book over and over again. So that's really important. That's why I say it takes about 9 months.
And in that 9 months, you mentioned it's going to take a while for the illustrator to do it. How much time do I, as the potential author, does the listener, as a potential author, need to plan out? Do they need to have an hour a day, 4 hours a day? Do they need to work on it every single day of the week? You know, what is that kind of breakdown? Because there's people that are super busy. They have families, they're working full-time jobs, they're running businesses. Like, how do you kind of break that down from a time standpoint?
From a time standpoint, nobody's asked me that before. I'm quickly calculating how we do things with our authors. I always put them in contact with their own author coach. That's just half an hour a month. And then we're always on a mastermind call, which is an hour and a half. So that's 2 hours a month. And then I would say another 3 hours for things that they have to do, like their revisions, like their writing. So maybe 5 to 7 hours for a whole month. This is not something, this is something everybody can do. This is something everybody can find 5 to 7 hours in a month to work on a dream project.
My mind is blown right now, Miriam. Even if it was 10 hours a month, shoot, let's call it 16 hours a month for simple sakes. That's 4 hours a week. Okay. That's not that much. That's so realistic. That's so doable for everybody, no matter what you're doing, no matter how you're going about doing it. And so let's just kick this off. How do we sign up for your training? How do we learn? What are we going to expect in this training? What can I expect to learn for everyone that's going to sign up and join? And then how do we participate in this free training?
Yes. So the training is called How to Write a Picture Book Children Will Love. I said that, but I really like the title, and parents will buy. So Jack Canfield and I are going on, we actually have 2 of the exact same trainings for an hour in teaching you how to write that. We share our 5 golden rules for writing that picture book. So the things that are important in children's books, the things that you shouldn't be putting in a children's book, the things that are important. So So that's it. You'll get very motivated to write your book. You'll hear from me and you'll hear from Jack. And then we're staying back and answering questions. So go to miriamlaundry.com/Jake. I would love to know all your friends that have come and supported us with that. And that's happening November 16th and November 17th.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we link that in there. But for everyone, it's miriamlaundry.com/Jake. You can go in, grab your ticket, learn the 5 golden rules, hang out with Miriam, hang out with Jack, and just have an absolute blast. So as we get ready to wrap up, all right, okay, there's people that have their minds spinning right now. All right. People are getting excited about this. People are getting fired up about this. I'm getting fired up about this. Like, I already have a few people that I need to just send this to them as soon as this comes out. My last question for you, Miriam, is if somebody's head is spinning right now, what advice or what's one thing you'd want them to know that might help them feel that this is really possible for them to do no matter where their situation is?
If your head is spinning right now and you're thinking, I would like to do this, I always say, grab a piece of paper and a pen and just start writing. Write whatever's on your mind. Either you want to journal right now or you want to write that outline that just came to you, right? What is the story about? Just write that. Get it out of your head and onto paper. That's my biggest piece of advice. From there, make sure to go to the website, sign up for the free training. It's completely free. That's going to get you to the next step. And that's going to empower you, inspire you to continue that journey. So that's the first thing. I don't know. That works for me. Does that work for you, Jake? Like when my mind is spinning, I need a piece of paper and I just need to, or type it out if that's you. Just get it out of my head and put it down. And then ask yourself, why is this important? Why is this important to you? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to write a children's book?
Amazing. There you have it. Miriam Laundry, everybody. What an absolutely fantastic show. Now, if you listen to this, we talked about, can anyone write a children's book? We talked about how to start a children's book. We talked about some of the secrets to actually executing on a children's book. We talked about how she turned a book into a business, a TEDx talk, a Guinness World Record. We talked about all of these things in this episode. So if you really enjoyed this, I want to encourage you to go sign up for that training and take an hour to listen to 2 incredibly amazing people who will give you the secret sauce. You have what's right in front of you. All you got to do is say, you know what? I'm interested. Let's go. Let's make this magic happen, because there are kids in this world that will have their lives changed because you went to this training. And I don't know about you, but the future of this world depends on people like us to say yes to ourselves, to educate people and to educate the kids of the next generation. So this was an absolutely fantastic episode. Go ahead and sign up for that training, miriamlaundry.com/Jake. And I will see you on the next one. This one fired me up, folks. I hope that it fired you up as well. If you really liked it, go to the training. Tell Miriam you enjoyed it. And I will see you all on the next one. Take care, everybody.